Well, good morning. Glad that I'm out here. Um, Somebody had posted a question on Facebook, and I had never even thought of the word. It was a very simple question, and I was able to respond to it. The question was, what is spiritual dullness? I think that's what he was saying. What is, or maybe he said define spiritual dullness. And I never thought about it. Honestly, you always think of something dull is something that is not sharp. You think of dullness as you could have a weak battery. I happen to have a flashlight that I hardly ever use, and I put new batteries in it. But I think the batteries are probably not that good because the batteries are old, even though they was new and they came from a new package, doesn't mean that they hold a charge forever. And the light is not what you would call a super bright light. So therefore the light in that flashlight is somewhat dull. It's not very bright. And I started thinking that, there's no doubt a lot of people that are walking in spiritual dullness. And what I mean by that is, many people, I've heard some people say that the Bible is hard to understand. I've got my Bible open right here where I am right now, of where I used the Bible in my last message. And I'm in the book of 2 Corinthians is where my last message was. But I'm going to flip, and I have no pages marked here, and I'm not going to even look down, and I'm not going to even look and see where I'm reading from. But I'll just give you an example. Let me just hold up my Bible and show you what I mean. I'm holding up my Bible. I have really nowhere of knowing what page I'm on right now. I have no clue. Let me just do it this way. I have no clue of what page that I'm on. Okay? I'm just going to point to a verse. I have no idea what the verse is going to be, but maybe this will end up proving my point. You see what I'm doing? I've got my finger on Ephesians 4:26. Ephesians 4:26. Now this is strictly at random now, but I'm going to try to show you what it means without doing any kind of work to be able to know where my finger was going to point to show you that even a person like myself can be spiritually dull. Now, it might just be that I might know enough about this verse. I know enough about who wrote this verse and maybe who the writer is talking to. Well, right there shows you that this book of Ephesians, chapter number 4, is not dull to me. Number one, it shows that I knew who the writer was. So that lets the sharpness come my way. It lets me know who the writer is writing to. That increases a little bit more of the sharpness of my blade. I've got a pair of scissors here, and I'm sure that these scissors will cut just about anything. But you know, when you have a dullness of spirituality, the metal is one thing. Spiritual dullness is a whole nother thing. But when I know who wrote the book, who the man was that wrote the book, and what is he saying to the people that are in this particular verse, verse 26. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I haven't read any of the other verse. It says, be ye angry and sin not. Now, it's given the indication that Paul is saying it's all right to be angry. Because he says here, be ye angry. I can be angered at a lot of things. I can be upset and angry about a bunch of stuff. But then it goes on to say, be ye angry and sin not. See, it's one thing to be angry and to be upset. It's another thing to sin when you're doing it. Taking it one step further than it needs to. I had a man, there was another question that somebody asked, and he wanted to know what was the evidence of when you have the Spirit of God. Something to that effect. And I think I just simply wrote, just in a one-liner almost, when you're saved, you have the Spirit of God. Well, he was trying to make it sound like that, well, you got more of the Spirit when you speak in tongues. And you know, I could have really let the hammer down. But let me tell you what I have found. People that think that they are something special in God, they really don't know what they're talking about. A lot of times, religion gives you that sense that you have arrived. It sort of lets people brag that they got a sharp pair of scissors. They got a sharp pair of scissors. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I've never done this before, and I hope it don't cut me. But you see me rubbing? I'm rubbing the blade side of my scissors. You know what? Just by feeling of the blade, rubbing on the blade, you know what the scissors is giving me indication? The scissors are not sharp. It could have very well been that they was never sharp from the day they was made and manufactured. These was never sharp at all. There's people that think that they're sharp in God because they'll go and say, well, I speak in tongues. And I've got something special more than you do. You know what I was able to write him back? Oh, I could have went on and on and on. But see, people like that don't want to hear negativity. because they're on this mountaintop. They up there on top of the mountain up there, they feel like they have arrived. They can't get any more humble and any more closer to God because they're on the mountain, but they don't realize that the mountain can be a valley in just a 2-minute difference of time, that the mountaintop can actually be a valley very, very quick. And if you're on top of the mountain and you feel like that you are spiritually sharp, watch out, because it might be that you might roll down the side of the mountain. Because what's the old saying? The higher you are, the further the fall. The higher you up on the mountain, the more likely you are to roll down these hands. And see, in this verse, I happen to know a few things. I happen to know a little bit of the context. If I was to turn over to the book of Samuel right now, I could read you the verse. I could maybe explain it, but if you don't have the context, you don't have no information. Oh, I can take an Old Testament verse and make a message out of it. I can go into Proverbs and take an Old Testament verse and make a message out of it, but I also can remove it from its context. And what have I done? I have basically made a message from a group of words out of context. Now, could it still be truthful in what I'm saying? Yes. These scissors right here don't have to be very sharp to cut paper. Let me show you what I'm talking about. These scissors don't have to be very, very sharp to cut paper. But you know what? I feel like that if I had a piece of toilet paper out here, or a napkin of some kind, I believe the scissors, you would have to sort of cut real slow. This one I didn't have to. See, the scissors are designed to be sharp because of the hardness of the paper, not so much the sharpness of the metal. The metal don't have to be real sharp when the paper is pretty astute to hold up. That's the reason these scissors right here is able to cut so well, because the paper has got a little bit of hardness. But see, if I come out here and I feel like that I'm bringing something to someone and I'm comparing my spirituality to being real sharp like these scissors, which, as you can see, the scissor is not real sharp. Now, could I bear down? Could I bear down on the metal and cut myself? Yeah, I guess I could, but it sure don't feel all that sharp. Even on that side, it don't feel that sharp. I don't want to cut myself. But just rubbing on the blade right now, that doesn't seem to cut my skin. It's letting me know that the scissors are not sharp. That's where I think a lot of people are today, is they're not sharp spiritually. And if they're not sharp, they're dull. They have a dullness to them. Now, I'm reading the verse here. Be ye angry and sin not. Let not the sun go down upon your wrath. What that means is, don't go to bed angry. Now he says here, be ye angry and sin not. Don't go to bed on your sin. He didn't say don't go to bed on your anger. He says, be ye angry and sin not. See, sin is what separates us. Sin sort of makes the metal dull. See, when he used that word dullness, spiritual dullness, I think there's a lot of people that are spiritually dull. You know how they get spiritually dull? When they come out here and they point to a verse like I did, number one, they don't know who wrote it. They don't know about the man who jotted this verse down. They don't know the time of when this verse was written down. They know little information about the verse other than what they read. See, the way you understand the Bible is you read the verse above and the verse below. See, I'm reading the verse, be ye angry and sin not. But if I really wanted to get the context of the verse, I would read the verse above it. I would even read the verse below it, and I would get sort of a feel of what the writer is saying. Now here's the thing, by reading the verse above, it's showing that my desire is to learn. It's showing my desire to want to know. When I don't care to know, I just leave my Bible closed. I've got several Bibles up here on my desk up here. I can just leave them closed. This one down here that I use all the time, I could just sit here and not worry about reading. I didn't know I was going to read this verse. But when you examine the verse and you read it more than one time, and you study on it, and you meditate on it, and you think about it, if I had a word here that I did not understand, it would have been easy for me to go and take my phone and Google what that word meant. Part of that is getting sharp iron so that you know what to do when you come out here to make a message. I come out here with two words: spiritual dullness. I can't take credit for me coming up with them words. I have to give credit to the one that typed that question out so that I would be able to read it, so that I would be able to begin to examine what it means to be spiritually dull. Some people says they don't understand the Bible. I found out why they don't understand the Bible. They never pick it up and read it. A lot of people will not understand the scripture because they don't have no interest in the scripture. So therefore, your metal of your spirituality is dull, is non-existent. See, these scissors right here is in this room for me to use at will. These scissors here are in this room because I know I have access to the scissors. So therefore, I have access to cut paper or to cut something else. If I decide I want to, I've got the ability to do it because I have the scissors. A lot of people owns a Bible. Like I say, I've got several up here. There's a lot of people that own a Bible, but do they even open the Bible? Is the Bible even sharp to them? No. So therefore, they are what I would call in spiritual dullness. And you know what? I'm glad that the man wrote that question, because I wouldn't have thought of that statement had I not read it. Now, I don't know what kind of reaction I'm going to get from it. I know what kind of reaction that I might get from the guy that was saying that in order for you to be real sharp, you've got to speak in tongues. You know what I told him? I speak in a new tongue. Because the old tongue, God took away the old tongue and gave me the new tongue. You know what the new tongue is used for? To witness to the lost man. If I come out here and blab a bunch of stuff that was a language, I've got a friend of mine that knows 5 languages. He could impress you with some of his languages, but the language that he's speaking is a dialect that he happens to know. But yet to some people, oh, he's speaking in some foreign language. No, he's speaking what he has been taught. But yet people want to think that I'm on the mountaintop and all of you other little peoples down here in the valley area, down on the level ground, but I'm up here on the top of the mountain. And you know what? That's dangerous. That's dangerous. See, he goes on to say, be ye angry and sin not. Let not the sun go down upon your wrath. Now, you know, I could stay here and make a message out of that. Spend a few times reading it over and over. I've already read it, 4 times in front of y'all. What is he saying right here? Is he saying it's all right to be angry? Be ye angry and sin not. Don't let sin in the doorway of your anger. You can be angry. There's people that make me angry. That man that said something about the tongues sort of ticked me off a little bit. But you know what? There are thousands of people that believe what he wrote to me. They believe it hook, line, and sinker. And they'll defend their action to the death, to the last day. But you know what God sees? He sees our mountaintop. And he also sees how dull we are when we're in the valley. So let me end it this way. If you're content in being on the mountain and you think that you're the sharpest knife in the box, just remember that 1 minute from now, you can be in the valley, and what you going to do then? What are you going to do then when you're in the valley? See, it's one thing to be all boastful and proud when you're on the mountaintop. But just know that sometimes the sweetest juice and the best rain settles at the bottom of the valley. The valley is where the water is collected, where the greener grass grows. The greener grass don't grow at the very top of the mountain always, but it does grow down in the area where it gets the most abundant water. I would say make sure that you balance yourself. Don't be content in being dull spiritually. Elderly ministry is how you can contact me. The best way to not be spiritually dull is to get saved. I'm convinced that there's probably a lot of people that are not saved, and therefore they have no mettle. They have no scissors. They have nothing to work with. Elderly ministry is how you can contact me. You can also contact me here on YouTube. If you decide you want to talk, I'd love to talk with you. I'm not going to argue. If somebody wants to know about salvation, I'll walk them through the plan of salvation. I'll take the new tongue that God has given me to explain to you the word salvation. If you'd like to talk, I'd love to talk with you. Leave a message when you call. I'll be more than glad to get back to you. Just remember, you're not always on the mountaintop. You're down in the valley. And God looks at the dullness of our life and whether we want to know Him or just know about Him. When you know Him is when you got the ability to cut. Thank y'all for watching.